Story 1. My D-Day story. My wife gave multiple review on Airbnb about how the beds are comfortable. So, everyone is sharing their story on here of their D-Day. So, I will share mine. Buckle up as this will be a long story. Needless to say, it's complicated. My D-Day was December 8th. I learned the night before that my wife had not only been having online affairs since the beginning of November, but by the end of November, she had a physical affair with another man. Needless to say, I was crushed. I had a morning meeting with my team, but I wasn't able to talk because my mouth was so dry. My wife was out of town at her mom's house due to her mom had just had cancer surgery the week before. After my meeting, I hopped in my car and drove 2.5 hours to see her and talk with her. I started the conversation with how is our marriage. She then unloaded on me and blamed me for everything wrong in her life and anything bad I may have said, done for the last 24 years. I was speechless. I didn't know what to say. I point blank asked her, are you pursuing other men online? She told me no. I then showed her where she had left a review for an Airbnb. She had mentioned how the beds were comfortable and the kitchen was well stocked. She then laughed and told me that her friend wanted to see what an Airbnb was like. I was crushed once again because she was not willing to be truthful with me. After I brought her back home, a few days later, she booked another Airbnb in town. She told our 3 children that mommy and daddy need some time apart before one of us ends up with a rolling pin in their head. She had wanted to catch an Uber ride to the house, but couldn't, so I gave her a ride there. She didn't want me to know the location. On Wednesday, she asked me to meet with her so she could talk with me. I agreed and we talked. She told me she wanted a separation and gave me this letter outlining her rules for the separation. They were completely one-sided. She doesn't want her mom to know because of her having stage 2 ovarian cancer. I am in agreement with her about that. I think the news would kill her mom or her mom would kill her for what she has done to our family. Her dad cheated on her mom. The next day, I was able to put some thoughts together regarding our conversation from the night before. I wrote my thoughts down and sent her a text asking to meet so I could read it to her. She told me she couldn't as her mom had her first follow-up visit with her doctor and she was going to be talking with her on the phone. I thought all day. Since I was heading to get my kids from school, I thought I would swing by and drop the letter off at the door and then send her a text requesting her to read it. Then we could talk it over at a more convenient time. When I showed up, there was a truck parked out back. The house was on a corner lot. I took a picture of the truck from the street and left. Fast forward to the 28th of December and I find her at this guy's place of business. He had a small business and she is there sleeping with him. My daughter and her boyfriend were in the car, but we didn't go inside. The guy's truck was the same one that was parked out back of the Airbnb. This AP number 2 if you are keeping count. Once again, I am crushed. I sent her a text and informed her that I would no longer be keeping her little secret. So, something you don't know about me is that I am a computer programmer and skilled in cybersecurity. I used my skills to find the true identity of each of these men. I also used that information to find the names of their wives. I contacted both wives the same day. I'm very glad that I did this as they had a right to know what kind of dirty men they had. Now, my wife had to go back on the prowl to find new men as I just burnt the bridge to the previous 2 AP. The wife of the second AP informed me that he and my wife met on sketchy website. So, I go and look on the website and can't seem to find her. The next day, my wife is in our room and on her phone. I see over her shoulder that she is looking at some profile and the picture of the person is blurred out. I quickly go back to the sketchy website and find that she has a profile. She is still on the same website today and meeting with lots of men. She doesn't know that I know, but needless to say, I do. As of last week, we both agreed to a divorce. Truth be told, it is not what I want, but I don't think I could ever trust her again. Never in our 24 years have I questioned her commitment to our marriage, until her friend came to town. That is when my spidey sense started going off that something is not right. Turns out once again my spidey sense is on point. So, to put a bow on this long story, I have been crying my eyes out from the day before D-Day. That is up until yesterday. I have been having panic attacks in front of my children. Yesterday, I seem to have turned some sort of page. Today is day 2 of me not crying for her. She is not crying for me, so why should I? She doesn't even have the decency to apologize for what she has done to not just me, but to our family. She is even still lying about where she is going when she is meeting up with all of these different men. She doesn't know yet, but both our daughters know everything. I didn't even have to tell them. She is just that bad at keeping a secret. My youngest daughter is having some anger issues, but we have agreed to go break some things this weekend to try and process things in a healthy way. I could share much more of this story, but I am trying to wrap this thing up. If you are going through what I am, know this. You are not alone. You will get through this. Take one day at a time. Find friends who you can talk to and cry on their shoulders. Go someplace in your car and scream. Do what you need to in order to process the pain. Just remember that you are strong. You will make it through this. You are the better person, and you did not deserve this to happen to you. You did not create this situation, but you also can't fix it. Your WS will have to come to grips with that. I am tired of crying for someone who is not crying for me. I refuse to let her destroy me. She has broken me in ways that she will never understand. I refuse to remain broken. I will heal. I will be stronger. I will make it through this. If you don't feel this way and you don't have anyone to talk to, DM me. Nobody should have to go through this alone. I hope your days get better. Just know that I am sending hugs your way. Reader comment, I think it is time to file for divorce and have her served. Stop having conversations with her and send her a co-parenting app. This is the only way she can communicate with you. I also think it is time to call her mother-in-law, thank her for the time she gave you and being kind to you, and let her know you have filed for divorce and why. Opus, make sure you are taking care of you, mentally and physically. Take care of your kids, let them all know what you have done after it is completed. Then ask them if they would like you to be the primary parent and request child support from her for the next 5 years. Opus, at some point she will eventually figure out the grass is extremely dry and barren on the other side of the fence. Then she will come crawling back, and make sure you are in a great place and moved on, and unavailable to her. Original poster, my girls have already told me they don't want to live with their mother. My son doesn't know the details, but soon will. Not because I am going to tell him, but because his sisters know, and they will tell him. After I have had a chance to set him down and let him know that his mother and I are getting a divorce, then it will be game on. We both have our own attorneys and hers is working on the first draft of the divorce papers. However, here in Alabama, they frown on sources that cheat, and that is going to tilt the court in my favor. I will work with my attorney to ensure we do all that we can to protect my kids above all else. Reader comment, you need to expose her affair to everybody who must know, family and friends. Nothing kills the romantic side of the affair faster than sunlight. Make her accountable of her deeds. Serve divorce papers and cut all support. Check for an attorney. Review your obligations and rights. Protect your children. Original poster, I've already started telling my family. I haven't talked to her family yet, but I will. I have documented proof. I can't tell her mother though because of cancer and her chemo treatments. I truly feel it could kill her and I don't want that on my head. I love her and will hold on to that information for now. As for the attorney, I already have one and she is good. In the state of Alabama, they don't care much for cheaters, so I will be leveraging that as much as possible. That coupled with the fact that my girls have already stated they don't want to live with her, I am feeling good about my chances. I will protect my children above all others and including myself. They are my world, and I will do anything for them. Reader comment, your wife has some serious issues, run far away from her and never shed another tear. Original poster, I would like to say that I will not shed another tear, but I feel as though I would be lying to myself. However, I want to celebrate my good days and that is what I did yesterday. And today, one day at a time for me. I refuse to allow her to crush my soul. I will get through this and will be all the better for it. However, I will have some issues that I will need to work through. Story 2. My wife had an affair 4 years ago, now I have an STD. TLDR, my wife had an affair several years ago, I found out at the time, but I recently contracted an STD which my wife confirmed was from the original affair which went longer than she originally told me. I laid out what I need if I were to continue with our relationship. However, she is resistant to helping me as much as I need her to. Just over 3 years ago I found out my high school sweetheart wife was having an affair. I was absolutely devastated. She didn't break off the affair immediately and stayed at this person's house for 2 days whilst I was still overseas. She lied about the affair on every occasion with a sprinkle of truth in between. It took months for me to find out 75% of the story as she slowly drip-fed me information. Over that several-month period, my wife was of little help to me. She was a great wife outside of anything in the healing process, and this kept me hopeful that something would change. Eventually, we fell back into a normal routine, but I still had a lot of residual damage that remained. Later that year my wife told me she was pregnant, and we welcomed our daughter into the world in late 2020. Things were great, but I still knew that these lingering feelings weren't going away, so I wrote my wife a letter. This letter explained everything from my perspective. It was over 8 pages long and I wrote it over a period of months deciding whether I would give it to her or not. Finally, a day came, and I couldn't help but want to give her the letter. We had just had a small fight and I know it probably wasn't the best time for her to read it. But I did, and this was her response after asking her what she thought. I feel really sorry for you. I left it at that in the hope that she would really understand my struggles, but instead, it was never spoken of again. Several months later, I contracted an STD. My wife also came down with the same STD several months before she supposedly started the affair. I know this is going to sound naive, but when my wife first contracted this STD, I believed I had given it to her. I had somewhat similar symptoms since I was a teenager and had just assumed that I had passed it on to her eventually. In retrospect, this was stupid, and I should have been checked the moment my wife was confirmed to have contracted the STD. So, after several hours of pleading with my wife to tell me the truth, she told me that the affair lasted longer than originally stated and that she had sex with this man as a one-night stand several months earlier, and then started a full affair with him several months later. This is somewhat believable as I looked over her phone records at the time and details of her location were freely available on her mobile phone bill. Her story does align, however, she shows many traits of a liar such as not answering my question with a yes or no answer, blaming me for not getting over the affair and tends to have many episodes of inappropriate yelling, etc. Upon finding out the second chapter of the affair, I laid it down bare to my wife and told her I need her to step up and really help me through this if she wants this relationship to survive. If not, we needed to separate. I asked for therapy, transparency, time to talk about the affair so I can lay it to rest, full accountability, understanding of my emotions, and for her to be proactive in helping me. She didn't do any of these things on her own accord. It always required a push from me and a fight between to get anywhere. She did listen to a couple of podcasts, I believe, but nothing ever came of it, and her continual denial of helping me through this ensued. Our marriage has been a yo-yo for the last 2 months. I have to continually ask her to be proactive. Generally, the arguments start with me asking her to do better, and she gets her heckles up because she thinks that attending therapy and sending me an apologetic message maybe once or twice a week is all I should need. She has done bits and pieces throughout, so I do have to give her some credit, but a lot of it is what she wants. For instance, I asked her to write a letter outlining everything that happened over the 8 or so months, as she struggled to talk about it, and it was her suggestion. The letter took 3 weeks to write, and I started to really feel as though my wife was really putting in the effort to explain what happened during those months. Upon reading the letter, I immediately noticed it was short. The letter had 2 paragraphs about how she felt when she started the affair, 2 paragraphs about the storyline which lasted 8 months, and 2 paragraphs of an apology. I was somewhat appreciative but pretty bummed. She could have put so much more detail in the letter about what happened, but I am now left with many unanswered questions. After all, that was the purpose of writing the letter. Admittedly, we have only been to therapy 3 times, and I find the therapist good. But the therapist also cheated on her husband many years ago. Some of the things she has said are contrary to my beliefs. For instance, I wanted my wife to provide phone records from before the affair had started to ensure that this is what she has explained. My wife refused and the therapist agreed with my wife, stating, "And what good will that bring?" I was quite stunned. I thought the therapist would ask my wife to be fully transparent so I don't have to live with the thought that my wife could possibly be a serial cheater. But that wasn't the case, and I'm still unsure whether this therapist is right for us. I would also like to clarify that my wife is still a great wife. She has agreed to spice up our sex life, which has been great. She is a great mother to our beautiful daughter, and she is just an all-round great partner. There has been no sign of any infidelity within the last 3 or so years, and I do believe without a shadow of a doubt that she is sorry for having an affair rather than dealing with our marital issues at the time. I am at the point where I want to give up. My wife believes that what she has provided and is currently providing is more than enough, and anything above that is crazy. So much so that she will probably end up walking away if I don't accept therapy, and a message every so often apologizing for the things she has done. My wife is aware that I have PTSD from all of this. I have spoken to her at length about why I think I need the things I have asked for, but she pushes so hard on her line of what is appropriate that I am starting to think that maybe I am asking too much. I understand that it has been years, but I never got to heal initially, and facing a lifelong STD and finding out about a further betrayal recently has really put me into a bad headspace. Reader comment: have you had your child DNA tested is my first question, and because you continue to let her rug sweep everything, nothing changes. I would serve her with divorce papers. You can always stop the process, but at least then she might get serious. But I really think her heart is not in it and she is a lost cause. It is not up to you to do the hard yards, it is her. Original poster: it did cross my mind, but my child is a spitting image of me, and I am quite certain that she was not having an affair anywhere close to that time. Reader comment: the kid looking like the husband only means that the cheating spouse has a type. Besides, you don't get the DNA test just to prove the kid is yours. You get the DNA test to show your spouse, in a physical, concrete way, how much of your trust she has destroyed. Honestly, it doesn't sound like she has ever been in reconciliation with you. She does the bare minimum to placate you and keep you off her back. Do you know any details of the affair? Who her AP is? How did they meet? Has she gone no contact with him? If they work together, she should have immediately quit her job. Did she do that? It is a rule of thumb in affairs that unless the cheater goes total no contact with the AP, the affair is continuing. You seem like you want to reconcile. She seems like she just wants to sweep it under the rug. It takes two to reconcile. If you want to see examples of how wayward spouses act and want to reconcile, browse the posts on the subreddit support for waywards. You will see a vast difference between the way your wife acts and how the posters there act. Original poster: I am 99.9% sure the child is mine. During that period I had full access to phones, social media, locations, etc. But I do see your point. I won't go into the fine detail, but due to my trust issues around time, I was more than informed about what she was up to. Yes, I know who the AP is, I know how they met, and she has gone no contact with him. I do want to reconcile, but that can't happen unless she wakes up and realizes that she continually destroys the last remaining hope that I have. Reader comment: funny how the affair restarted after the kid was born, isn't it? She basically trapped you at this point. You should have left her when you had the chance, now it's on you. I know it's not something you like to hear, but leave her already. She doesn't respect you at all at this point. Don't EFF up any more than you already did. Original poster: sorry, maybe I didn't clarify. My wife only had one affair. I recently found out that her affair was longer than she first stated, not that she had another affair. Story 2. What should I do 30 years later? First time posting. This is very long. Some background: we started dating when she was 16, engaged at 18, married at 20. We didn't know what grade SX was, but we were having fun. Okay, if you think I was doing things when she was young, nope. We did not do the deed until 6 months before we got married. We owned a house and were poor due to the payment was 3/4 of my net pay, but happy. This was 1983. Our son was born in spring of 1985. We did the same in 1987. Yes, second kid spring of 1988. I had worked 80 hours a week up until then, so I had to get money to pay for kid number 2. Got third job now at 100 hours a week and 16 credit hours in college. You got it, I got about 10 hours of sleep a week. My wife told me she might be bi. I told her to date a girl and find out, and I told her not to tell me about it when she got home. I loved her so much that I wanted her to be happy, and spending the rest of her life thinking about it, she would never be happy. So, if she left, and if she stayed, I knew she would not be cheating with a girl. She stayed. Some backing up in time. Her mom told SX was nasty and you had to never touch down there, just lay there and let him do it. It took me 6 months to get her to let me go down on her. When I met her, she was 36 D cup, and when she was 12, when she was asked what she wanted something from the bar, she was with her mom and dad. When we got married, she was 40 E cup. Why did I tell you this? Right after we were married, she told me it made her cringe if her breasts were touched. Due to all the boys jarping her in school, this is important later. When I finished school, got a one job and only worked 60 hours a week. We had an adult BBS from 1990 to 1995-ish. We went to parties that some of the other BBS had. One was once a month and could get wild. Girls were going down on guys on the dance floor, things like that. If my wife could not get a babysitter, she went alone. One time my brother got home early, so I went to join them. The place was closed, went home, she got there an hour later, I told I went, and she said that when they closed, they went to a house nearby. About a year later she got a temp job filling in for someone in an office. When I was doing work on the BBS, I found a MSG to my wife from Joe, telling her that her boss told him all the things she was doing in the van at lunch and would she do that with him. She replied yes, but I need to tell George I can't find a babysitter like I do most of the time. So, he did give a full detailed description of what she was doing with her boss. I'm not sure what I can say in here, but I'm just going to give some highlights. He started playing rough with her now 44 EE cup. Then EF her boob. Remember, she told me not to touch them. She then went down and swallowed it. I finished the work on BBS. Told her we need to talk. Then we went into the bedroom. I did not say anything. She told me everything that happened. But more are than 30, and told me she planned to do it with Joe that weekend. When I asked her why she told me that, she said his wife didn't have sex with him that often, so she felt bad for him. When asked about the rough play, she would not answer, nor about her drinking his juice. She said I could sleep with someone to get even. I told her I would only have sex with someone else if she was there. So, no more parties for her. Flash forward 30-some years. I'm not sure what triggered it, but it hit me like a brick wall. Not only what she let him do, but what was she doing when not at the BBS parties. I have been watching podcasts on YouTube about how women won't let the husbands do things they fantasize about, so the husbands don't think they are prude. Then they find guys to do those things that they like. How do I deal with things forgiven but not forgotten, and she never told me about that year before? So, after 39 years of being married, do I want to bring things up that happened that long ago? Update 1. For those that said I should whip it out and give her to drink. My health has been bad for 20 years now, a chain of things, but for this I have cancer and have no member or cum. I'm not leaving her. It has been 30 years now. We built a good life. Bought some land, going to build a 4,000 SQFT house on it. If I left, which at this point would be dumb, no cheating for 30 years, and I would have to live in a 700 SQFT apartment. Just some info, I guess you can't Google it. You had to call and there were MSG boards kind like this and you could send PMs play games. Most were signal lines so one person at a time and had time limits. We had 6 lines so you could chat with other users. I hope this helps. Just thought of this. She knew that I read the admin MSG every day. Did she want me to catch her? Reader comment. Turns out your wife was a SLT with everyone but you. However, you decided to stay and have boring SX with her while she had great sloppy SX with everyone but you. Should have dumped her years ago but you decided sloppy seconds was okay for you. Should have had the balls to cut her loose 30 years ago. Original poster. I would have. She tried to lie. She told me she has never done it again. Reader comment. So, you basically rug swept the whole thing and how you are getting triggered because you two never really properly addressed it, the whole cheating and affair. Original poster. The one I had proof of. We did talk. I had no proof for the rest and she stopped. For the first couple of years, after I knew where she was and who she was with, and by 15 years, I just let her tell me where she was with checking. She knew I would leave if she effed up again. Reader comment. 1. At her young age her brain was not fully developed. She grew up and walked a straight line. 2. I suggest taking control of your own thoughts. Make a list of why you're happy and read each one slowly out loud every time you think about the past. Repeat every day for a month. Extend as necessary. You will gradually experience less frequent and intense flashbacks. You can beat this. Stay strong and focus on that list. Original poster. Thank you. I think you understand what is going on. At this time, it is my problem, not an us problem. I have been in concealing for 20 years due to depression. My back went out, was in bed for about 3 years, had 2 operations, not doing anything was really bad for me. And lots of health problems and won't live to be old.